Quick reminder for everyone, the link to the ESInet users group homepage was in your meeting invite. Please go to that page and click the button near the top to sign in for today's meeting. Obviously, you don't need the sign-in info or you wouldn't already be on here, but that's how we're tracking attendance. Thank you.
Great. Well, it's 10:01. I don't think Bruce was going to be able to get on unless he's with you right now, Daryl.
No, he was still down in the meeting.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I see that we've got a good handful of people that have joined. And again, this is our internal call for the PSAPs and authorities. So hopefully that is all that is on this call today. And this is to allow you to just open up and talk about concerns you have with the project and items you want to have handled or at least covered in our meeting next week. So what I'm displaying right now is the discussion items ESInet. And this is what we've got open right now that we're tracking. But before we get into that, I just wanted to talk real quick about the scheduling. So on the tab, the sheet, it's the third sheet over. And this is information that we have from CenturyLink as to the status of the cuts. And this is the latest information we received on Friday. So just so everyone's aware, a little bit of a format difference that we have is monthly we'll be getting together as a pre-meeting. And then following this meeting, we'll have the meeting with all of us and CenturyLink. And I actually see CenturyLink getting on the call right now. Daryl, were you expecting them to join us?
Sorry, this is Cindy with CenturyLink. I was invited to it. I can drop off if you want me to.
Yeah, this call is just internal so the full call with CenturyLink on it will be the one next week. So
okay.
if the CenturyLink people wouldn't mind dropping off, we'll continue.
Okay,
Kevin
thanks.
will drop.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, great. And so we have these two calls monthly, and then every Friday for PSAPs that just cut or that are getting ready to cut within that month bubble, we're doing weekly status calls with them just so we can touch base about open items from the cut, quick lessons learned, and status checks and updates on PSAPs that are getting ready to cut. So the schedule that I have here is from our last update from CenturyLink on last Friday. And if you have different information or if you just want to check and see what's going on with other PSAPs that may be cutting around you, you can check on this tab and take a look at the revised scheduling that we're tracking with them. Does anybody have any questions on this schedule?
Kimberly, not a question, but this is Daryl, and I just want to comment. On the last call, I did bring up to CenturyLink that I was very concerned about the roadblocks that have been hit on the first several migrations. We should be several migrations in at this point, and right now the only PSAP that is migrated is City of Aurora 911. However, they did try to reassure me on the last call, the last Friday call we had, that that they believe that once they get moving on these upcoming migrations, that it will they won't have as many roadblocks in encountering when they're doing the migration, simply because these were the first several ones they did, and they didn't do the site surveys until close to cutover time. That's why they're having the issues that they're having now. And they're doing the site surveys with more lead time before the migration now. So we're going to have to watch this and see if it improves. Right now, it doesn't look very good when you see that the first several migrations have not taken place as scheduled.
Yeah, and I think it was the circuit ordering. So the site surveys, in my opinion, were a waste of time on both ends, waste of time and money on CenturyLink, and a waste of our time meeting that person out there to walk through our PSAPs. I think the surprises they received at AdCom and the backup Aurora PSAP was their delay on ordering their circuits. And so the delay 100% CenturyLink, and you're right, CenturyLink stated that they are correcting that by ordering the circuits earlier. And when we look at the cuts for February and even all the way up until, I guess it would be March 17th, we have confirmation that all the circuits have been ordered. So, and Fremont is the one after that, which would be March 24th, and they didn't confirm that that's done, but the order's been placed. So hopefully we'll see these projects all cut on time as they're listed here on the calendar. Does anybody have any questions about the delays or comments about that?
So, Kimberly, Mike Wallace with Weld County.
Hi, Mike.
I guess I've got a question in regards why the backup center is marked out under March. It shows February 27th, but it's actually scheduled for March 2nd.
Okay, that's just my confusion on what CenturyLink stated, or am I copying that data over? So my understanding is they're doing your primary and your backup at the same time?
Not from my understanding. They're doing the primary on the 27th and the backup on March 2nd.
Okay. I could have misunderstood what Cindy said on our call, so I will, well, back up.
Kimberly, this is Daryl. That's what I
Yeah.
recall as well. So, Mike, you might need to reach out to CenturyLink and make sure they're on the same page. Because my understanding was they were going to do your primary and your backup on the same day.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, but I will double check on that.
Yeah, Mike, why don't I send an email out to Cindy and CCU and also
Okay.
Daryl, and then that way I can just explain this is what I understood on our call on Friday. What did I misunderstand? And then that way we can get it straightened out. But that's why I did the combined is I believe they reported on Friday that they are going to do your two sites at the same time because it's in a hosted node environment. But if they're not communicating that to you, that's a significant problem.
Yeah, they haven't yet. So if they are, we've got some issues.
Okay, let me get clarity on that right after this call.
Okay.
Anybody else looking at this, especially PSOPs for February and March, have any questions or comments about your schedule?
This is Robert Sanchez, Alamosa State Patrol. I really don't have a question about the schedule, more of comments of our experience with our site survey. The tech came in, didn't tell us that he was doing a site survey, just kind of said he needed to get back into the equipment room, which happens fairly regularly. So he went in, did his thing, and then a few weeks later, I got an email from Nancy Smith-Hammond wanting to go over the site survey results with us that we didn't know had occurred. So as we're going over the site survey results, she's asking me what the comments her tech had made meant, and asking me basically what he found. When we told her that we didn't do a site survey with the tech, we didn't know that's what he was here doing. So she sent him back out, and he was asking us more questions than answers he was providing. He was asking us what SIP meant, what comma meant, didn't have an understanding of the power supply needs. Took a bunch of pictures and sent them to Nancy Smith-Hammond, and we haven't heard anything back from anybody. So I don't know if anybody else has had a similar experience, or if you could expect that kind of experience, but that's what our experience was.
Yeah, ours was very similar, and it was a waste of our time. Do you remember the person's name that came out and did your site survey? Was it Paul Baker by chance?
It wasn't. His name was John Griffin. He's a local tech down here in the valley.
Okay. Ours was similar, different CenturyLink contractor, but very similar, where they really weren't sure what they were doing, and I felt like we were introducing 911 versus going over specifics about the project. So I think that's great feedback that we can, again, reiterate to CenturyLink that if a successful project's going to happen, it starts with that site survey, because, and it can't waste our time. So
I agree, and nothing against the tech. He just got a work order and an email and came and did what he did. So,
right.
Nothing against the tech. I just haven't figured it out yet. CenturyLink was.
Okay. So now you're in the process of exchanging and you're waiting for answers from Nancy?
Yeah, the tech took a whole bunch of pictures, we have plenty of rack space and all that stuff, and he really didn't understand what all they were needing, so he just took pictures of everything related in our server room and sent them to Nancy, and I haven't heard anything. I sent her a follow-up email this morning because I hadn't heard anything, and I got a vacation kickback, so I don't know when we'll hear from her.
Okay. And Rob, you bring up a point that we talked about with those that have cut and those that are getting ready to cut, and that is creating an email listserv internally. And so I created a new tab on the spreadsheet called post-cut lessons. And what we're going to be doing is just dumping in information here as you're going through the project and you're like, oh, this would be great information to share, something that we needed to do that we didn't do, or just those good lessons learned. So feel free for anybody to add information in here. And one of the ones that you're struggling with that we have learned Douglas County specifically has struggled with is emails going to certain people but not other people, back and forth communication, maybe even side conversations taking place and not having the right visibility. And so what we're asking the PSAPS authorities to do is to create an email list group. Maybe it's 2 people, maybe it's just 1 person, or maybe it's 5 people in your organization that you want the CenturyLink team to be communicating with on site survey, somebody coming on site, testing dates, all that pertinent information that you want to have shared about the project. And in return, you should be emailing Nancy and Cindy and Wes. So you'll have at least 3 people as points of contact to be emailing your communication back and forth. That way, if Nancy's out, Cindy can jump in and pick that information up, or Wes. So those PSAPS authorities, for all of you that are getting ready to cut or in the process, definitely be thinking about who you want to have included in your communication from CenturyLink. And then you're going to want to send that over to the CenturyLink contacts. And their emails are right here. It's going to be Cindy Berry. I'll just put them in red. Wes Horn and Nancy. Those are our 3 primary folks that are working on the project as points of contacts for us. So once you get that email group, even if you just put them all in your CC email as you send over to them and explain for the CSP Alamosa project, all of these individuals need to be emailed on communication around the ESInet project. And they should be honoring that.
Thank you. That's very good advice. I appreciate that.
Anybody have anything else on the scheduling or dates or experience that you wanted to share that you've been working through?
Hey, Kimberly, this is Jeremy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if we were unmuted. Sounds like Grand Junction's had a similar experience. We had a technician show up and just start putting in equipment. There was no notification or walkthrough process. So sounds like we've got our circuit information in. As we've had a good experience with the local techs, they were able to kind of fit us in. We have diversified circuits for Grand Junction, so they were able to accommodate that. But we didn't have any knowledge that they were showing up.
And that's great information to know. Same thing happened to Douglas County, and Douglas County ended up turning them away because they just showed up and they didn't notify. They had no idea why that person was there. So if you can do the same thing, Jeremy, is notify, email that CenturyLink group with, here's the team that needs to be communicated with. And hopefully that's more than 1 person, so we have those backups we can offer them too. And we'll definitely make sure they understand that this has been occurring with tech showing up without notice.
Yeah, and what we found in our experience were the technicians weren't familiar with 911 at all. They're just putting in T1 line interface cards. So you're ending up with technicians that potentially are on your DSL internet-based side, not necessarily a 911 group. So,
and I know for us, being in the back room, that would require an escort if it's a tech that hasn't been cleared, isn't on the vendor management list for CGIS. We would require an escort the entire time they're there. So if it's not an approved tech, I mean, that raises a concern for us if we encountered something similar. And I don't know everyone else's policies around that, but.
Yeah, we have a similar policy, so we had kind of a similar approach there.
Yeah, so if you're not notified they're going to show up, you're going to take a whole person out of rotation that day to sit and babysit somebody who's not familiar with 911. That's a problem. Thanks, Jason. I see your comments. Round County had something similar, that they had somebody show up to install and then got the notification a couple days later. So the scheduling piece and communication, we're hoping, and that's our solution, is that email group and email listserv that they are tracking for each of the projects. Let's give that a try and see if that clears up some of the issues for those PSAPs that are cutting in the next couple of months. So everything will be solved for us for those of us going in the fall. So we appreciate all of you and all the pain you're experiencing on the front end. Post-cut lessons. I wanted to go through some of the post-cut lessons real quick before we get into the discussion items. We've already covered some of the pieces with Aurora and language line voyance and caller ID issues. So just take a look at that and see if that makes sense. We just talked about the email group. Aurora also shared that the abandoned trunk behavior in the SIP environment was different for them than the traditional analog. And so they had to work through that with their CPE tech. And then one piece that we wanted to make sure we reiterate to everybody is your logging recorders. That's an item that could be getting missed, is that when the camera trunks go away, if you are deciding to do a SIP handoff versus PGM, you can no longer record those camera trunks. So talking to your logging recorder, making sure you understand how you're going to record in the new environment and getting them up to speed is critical. And what we have found to date is some PSAPs authorities are missing that detail and getting hit with a pretty heavy cost on licensing and reconfigurations required on their voice loggers. So just wanted to make sure that everyone is tracking that internally. Any questions on the post-cut lessons? Okay, discussion items for CenturyLink. Items that we still have pending are listed here that we still need to have some answers to. So items in red we've covered on other conference calls and they're still open. The additional one that we added, and this is something we noticed from the Aurora install, was the difference between the X1 devices and the originally proposed BV-1s. And so we just wanted to have CenturyLink talk through that with us next week. And then we'll add the other issues brought up by some of you today about communication and the site surveys. Does anybody have anything else they would like to add to the spreadsheet for CenturyLink to talk to next week? That's great. That means everything is going good. So, Daryl, do you have anything?
I don't, other than to say that those Friday calls that Kimberly mentioned, we're adding, so there's a core group of people, which includes CenturyLink and the users group officers who are on those calls every Friday, and then we're adding anyone who has either recently had a migration or is coming up for a migration in the next couple of weeks. So when you get close to your migration date, expect to see an invite for that, and expect to, if you can, be available, and those will be on Fridays at 11 a.m. Because we're trying to get everybody on the call who's got a pertinent migration coming up, to make sure that we're all on the same page and that any issues that are still outstanding are discussed.
And we are taking notes. And so even if you can't attend, but you want to hear what's going on or see what's going on, it's called Colorado NG911 migration status, and hopefully you can see my screen. But this is where CenturyLink is providing a little bit more detail about each of those PSAPs getting ready to cut. And then I'm just taking notes in my own words and highlighting in red action items for the PSAPs authorities. So this is visible to all of you as well. And you're more than welcome to get in, take a look, and just see the information they're providing.
And that's available in the working documents folder of the ESInet users group webpage.
All right, does anybody have anything else that you wanted to talk through about this project before we take down the call today? Great. Well, I'm hopeful that it's going well for everybody and that everyone that is getting ready to cut is working through their items. I know, Boulder, you're getting ready to do your testing, or you've done your testing, so looking forward to see how your project goes. All right. Well, then I will go ahead and take down the call. So thank you everyone for jumping on today. If anything comes up afterwards, don't hesitate to email me or get in on your own and add items to this list so you can just enter information in here as questions pop up for you and your team. So thank you, everyone.
Bye all.
Thank you.